All right. Yes, you are supposed to hear something, and I hope you can hear me now. Hello, everybody. Okay, so at least one person can hear me. If you can hear me, can you put a plus? I know it's a bit irritating, but this is the only thing I can do. Yay, so people can hear me. Lovely. So, dear colleagues, welcome to the webinar. My name is Kiseleva Evgenia, and I'm Cambridge Assessment English methodologist. And the first thing that I would like to say is that we all know that everybody is teaching online now, and our internet has never seen so many people at the same time. So unfortunately, the internet connection might be a bit poor sometimes, and I do apologize in advance for that. But let's hope that everything goes fine, and let's hope for the best. So I guess it's time to start. I can see people from all over Russia here. And I guess we now are having all the same problems because we need to teach online, and not all of us are ready to do that. And we are all struggling with this process, and we all need some support, and we all need some ideas how to do that. So today we're going to talk about teaching productive skills online. And we are going to discuss how to do that and how to do it effectively. No sound. Okay. So I hope this is okay, so people can hear me. You probably need to refresh the page. It helps sometimes for the sound. All right. So today during this webinar, we are going to have a brief overview of the main principles of task-based learning. We are going to watch some parts of a real lesson that was delivered by me, and you're going to criticize this lesson, and we are going to talk about what can be improved in this lesson. I will tell you in more details what I have done there, how I did this, and why. So all the reasons for my choice. Also, we will talk about some ideas of how to plan an online speaking or writing lesson using TBL, task-based learning approach, and how to do it in Zoom. So I guess Zoom is now one of the most popular programs that we use for online teaching. That's why I have chosen it. So we are all now teaching online, and I guess we all have the same problems at the moment. We all have the same challenges. And during this webinar, I will try to answer some questions, and I will try to give ideas how to make our life easier. So one of the main problems for us as teachers and for our students in teaching online is the level of digital literacy. And unfortunately, we are used to doing it offline. We're used to using different handouts, materials, books, I don't know, dancing and singing with our students. But we are not that professional when we talk about teaching online, when we talk about using computers or any other devices. And this is one of the crucial factors that we need to consider while we are preparing our lessons and while we are planning the lesson with our students. Because it's not only the teacher's problem that we sometimes don't know how to use some programs, it's also our students' problem, because they are also overwhelmed with all this amount of different programs, platforms, documents they have to deal with. And unfortunately, not all of them are able to do it. So this is one of the key factors that should be taken into consideration. And I know that we are all struggling with it. So yeah, it is 100% true. I know because I face it myself. So also the next challenge of teaching online will be a wide choice of applications. I'm pretty sure that now you are surrounded by a lot of information about teaching online, a lot of, again, platforms, applications, programs, and for some reason, we might think that if we don't use 5 different applications in our lesson, so our online lesson is not of the top quality. And this is not true, and that's exactly why I'm having this webinar today. That's exactly why I have chosen to talk about task-based learning as an alternative to using a lot of different applications. And this is again connected to our level of digital literacy. So we all have to do it. So let's do it let's try not to waste our energy. Let's try to save our time and effort, but still do it effectively. The next challenge that we have while teaching online, and I guess, again, I'm not the only person who faces this, is that students use different devices while they are studying. They can use their computers, their laptops, they can use their telephones, their tablets, and all these devices provide different opportunities for our students. So this is also something we need to take into consideration, because unfortunately sometimes we plan a lesson with a lot of different activities and in different applications again, and our students simply cannot use them because they are either doing it from their phones and their phone just simply doesn't allow them to use the applications, or they have a different set of opportunities that can be used on a tablet, for example. So using a tablet is very different from using a laptop when we speak about Zoom, for example. The next challenge that we have in online teaching is that our preparation time has suddenly increased greatly. So if we used to spend like probably half an hour or an hour per lesson to prepare a lesson, now I know that a lot of my colleagues need to spend more than 2-3 hours to prepare a lesson, because again, we want to squeeze a lot of things into this lesson. And unfortunately, it becomes our main goal to demonstrate that we have this high level of digital literacy. We can use all these things, and sometimes we just forget about the actual teaching, about the methodology, which is, in my opinion, more important than the ability to use applications. So also, if we speak about productive skills, we all know that it's really difficult to teach writing even offline, and our students find it boring sometimes, most of the time, unfortunately. And it is even more difficult to do it in front of the screen, because they might be lazy, they might think it's not effective, and you as a teacher will just, I don't know, sit in front of your display and wait for them to complete something. So again, this is an issue we need to talk about today. Another problem that we face is, we are all dependent on the internet. I absolutely agree on that. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, I can see some commentaries about writing. We can set it for the homework. Unfortunately, we can't do it all the time, and sometimes we just want to have some process writing, which is also helpful, especially as I represent Cambridge Assessment English. If we prepare for a writing test for part of writing, sometimes we want to do writing during the lesson just to make sure they're doing everything properly, not just to give them feedback. Okay, so the next issue, the next challenge that I have here is the possibility to monitor students during their speaking or writing. And in this, for this purpose, Zoom, in my opinion, is one of the best platforms, because we can put our students into breakout rooms in order to monitor them and sometimes give them support if needed. What other applications, what other challenges do you face while you're teaching online? So I can see the one, the issue about internet. We're absolutely dependent on it. Is there anything else that you think is a great challenge? A typing teaching program. I'm not sure I understand what exactly you mean here. Okay, do you have any parents? Yes. Headphones, microphones, yes. We all have this problem. Okay. Audio and text. Lessons more entertaining than educating. Absolutely. Time in front of the computers. I absolutely agree. So it has greatly increased, and again, this is also an issue with parents, because some of them just refuse having lessons because of this. Type very slowly. Use web cameras. Okay, sound delay. This is also about the internet connection. Wow, you have a lot of problems. Yes, monitor them closely. Connection. Yes, well, there's nothing we can do with lying, unfortunately. Chats, so you can close chats. You can only enable some students to type in chats. Proper discussions. Okay, nice. So let's see if this webinar can suggest some ideas how to deal with these problems. Assessment of oral assignments. Yeah, well, they are students, especially teenagers. They will also find a way out. So 3 or 4 pairs. Yes. Okay. So let's see what I can offer. And closer to the end of the webinar, I will try to answer more questions and try to help, because I know we're in the same boat now. All right. So what I suggest for teaching online, what I suggest as, in my opinion, one of the most energy effective approaches is TBL, task-based learning. And I have some certain reasons for that. First of all, it is very student-centered, because again, unfortunately, when we start teaching online, it's only like the teacher is speaking all the time, and the students are mostly listening, and the teacher is still controlling all the process. However, when we use task-based learning approach, it is more student-centered. So all the input, most of the input, comes from the students, and they might feel that is even more effective than something more traditional like PPP, for example. What else is good about TBL is that it provides a natural context for production. If we talk about speaking, so a natural context for speaking. If we talk about writing, then they should have some possibility to present their writing to the wider audience. So to give it some communicative purpose. And again, if we're speaking about Cambridge exams, I can't help mentioning that for Cambridge exams are executed in the way that it's as close to real life, the situations are as close to the real life as possible. And task-based learning has the same features, so it is as close to the real life as possible. What else is important here is that when you use task-based learning approach, it is more focus shifts from accuracy to fluency. So to the ability of communicating the idea, of conveying the message, and language is only a tool for this. So they're not so much focused on whether they use correct grammar or they use some structures correctly, but they are focused on communication. And I guess TBL is one of the most effective approaches in order to develop communication. What else is important? As I've already mentioned, language input comes mostly from the students. So you can predict, you can anticipate some language that they will use, and but still you solve the problems that you have at the moment. So they produce something, you take notes, and you can immediately react to what your students need. And I guess this is just crucial, because especially when we're teaching online, and sometimes we have long presentations, we have long vocabulary practice, for example, our students might feel that it is just kind of a lecture, and they really need more communication. They really need something more, probably not something more related to their needs. Let's put it, yeah, lively, probably. Thank you very much. So TBL, in this case, when we're working with the students' needs, it's more enjoyable and more motivating because they can feel the improvement. It provides an opportunity for a lot of communication. And the next point here that I would like to really draw your attention to. It is a rather material light approach. So as most of the input comes from our students, a lot of emergent language comes from our students, we don't need a lot of handouts if we're teaching offline. If we're teaching online, we don't need a lot of documents or a lot of applications to be used. And also the last thing is focus on meaning. So again, it's all about communication and conveying the message. So it is good for both the real life, for exam preparation, and for giving your students an opportunity for production. It sounds a bit like dogma. I quite agree with you. However, if we speak about dogma, it is more about absolutely spontaneous speech, absolutely spontaneous lesson without any plan, to be honest. If we speak about TBL, it has some dogma moments when we work with the emergent language, but still teachers are the people who provide the framework of the lesson, while in dogma it is completely based on what your students produce. But yeah, it is quite close, and probably this is the reason why I like it. Okay, so the main idea of TBL approach is the task cycle. So you have the pre-task, when you introduce the topic, set the context, and give your students an idea of what's going to happen. So you will expose them to some language, to some task, example tasks and model, just to give an idea of what is expected from them. And then we get the task cycle, which is the core of the approach of your lesson. When they first do the task, yeah, they get the idea, they plan how to report it, and they report the results. And during this task cycle, a teacher is only a person who supports, who helps, who provides some language if needed, if the students ask about it. Also, during this task cycle, the teacher can collect the emergent language. So this is the moment when we take notes. And the last part of this framework, of this approach, would be language focus. This is when we can add some PPP approach. And this is when we can drill something if we feel that they need it. This is when we can improve their language, we can comment on grammar, we can give feedback, maybe some error correction. And after having this language focus, it's always a good idea to go back to the task cycle, repeat it again. So repeat the task, and your students hopefully will see the improvement, and you will feel this improvement. It doesn't usually happen like from the first lesson, but your students need to get used to this system, and they will try to improve their previous performance. So it does work. There's one more thing that I haven't probably mentioned yet, is that this approach is more appropriate for people who are already quite well cognitively developed. So I wouldn't recommend this approach for little kids, probably for people starting from like 10, 12 years old. Okay, I have a question. What's a PPP approach? Presentation, practice, production. So this is when the main focus is on accuracy, at least the first two stages. So the teacher presents the language. It can be vocabulary, functional language, some grammar. Then students have to work with this language. And first they have the controlled practice, like gap filling, some drills, so including in the practice. And production is freer practice when they actually do some task. So this is the difference. If we speak about TBL, we start with the task. Okay. Yes, there will be a recording, and all the materials will be sent to you. So if we go back to the age, again, I wouldn't recommend it for kids, because they might get confused when the teacher is not supporting them all the time, especially online. But for people like 10 plus and teenagers, adults, this approach works really well. All right. When we speak about TBL, the task-based learning, always return students to the lesson, takes most time. Well, yeah, it might happen. Okay, when we're speaking about a task and task-based learning, we need to be absolutely sure that our task is really a task, not just an activity. And if you have a look at this slide, this is a quotation by Jane Willis, one of the most famous methodologists who works with TBL. And she says that a task is an activity where the target language is used by the learner for a communicative purpose in order to achieve an outcome. So language is just the tool, and the main idea is to, again, achieve some outcome, some real life outcome. I would like you to have a look at my 8 examples and choose the ones which are really tasks but not activities. So which of these 8 ideas are tasks, not activities? 3, 2, 3, 6, 8. 5, 6. So not everybody agrees about 2, 8, 6. Okay, nice. Wow, almost all of them. Okay. So the first one definitely is not a task, it's an activity. So it's really an activity when it's a controlled practice activity, when you just complete the gaps. Definitely not a task. Number 2, not everybody is sure about number 2, but actually number 2 is a task, because the communicative outcome would be a list of activities or our isolation period. So it is a task. Number 3 definitely is a task, because you need to achieve some communicative purpose. It's not focused on language, it's focused on the skill, writing skill in this case. Idioms to their meanings, definitely an activity. 5, paraphrase the sentence. It is an activity, because there is no communicative purpose in it. And it's not close to real life, so because I remember there were some answers with number 5. Number 6, definitely an activity, because you have a product. You have an advertisement for a cafe, so it is a, sorry, not an activity. Number 6 is definitely a task. Number 7, put in sentences into correct order to make a story. So this is an activity, not a task again, because there is no communicative purpose here. It's just basically rearranging something. And 8, making a video for your blog is a task, because you have a product, a communicative product. So can you think of any other tasks that you have done or you might do with your students? Not activities, but any other examples of tasks. Can you write them in the chat if you have any ideas, please? Presentation, okay, about something. Essays, menu, good. Posters, yeah, create a monster, okay. Yeah, by the way, TBL, task-based learning, is very close, and there is sometimes an overlap between TBL, task-based learning, and project-based learning. So they have the same communicative purpose, so they can be swapped. 5 facts about a giraffe. Role play, wonderful, amazing. Okay, so let's move on then. Today we're going to talk mostly about speaking production. And if we speak about the first stage of our plan of a TBL lesson, it will have three sub-stages. There would be teacher setting the context, students brainstorming some possible language for the task, and setting the task. When we speak about setting the context, it can be just some personal story from the teacher, can be some ideas that again, the teacher provides something that the teacher has heard or read somewhere. But it's also a good idea to give our students a model task, to expose them to the language, to expose them to the format of the task. It also works as setting the context. So in my lesson that we are going to watch a bit later, my students, before we started talking, before I started to make it more personal, my students watched a short video taken from YouTube. And in this video, a girl, I'm not really sure, but to me, she looks like a teenager, so that's why I've chosen her. She told about different ways of spending free time while you're in quarantine. The language is really quite comprehensible. And I used this YouTube video. I have a link here if you're interested. So I used this YouTube video for my students. By the way, my group was of very different levels. So I had starting from the end of A2 up to B2. So link is not active. You will get the presentation and you can use it. So yeah, I had a group of mixed levels, but it was appropriate even for A2, so my students managed to get the idea. So I used the video just to demonstrate what's expected, some ideas, how to spend your time during the isolation. Sorry, there was, I just thought it is very relevant to the moment, so I used it for my lesson. Okay, so just a moment, please. So I used some tips for my lesson. So you will see them all in the video. I used my background to set the context after we watched the video because I wanted to make it more personalized. And you can see now that I'm sitting in front of something green, and this is actually my background because I was using Zoom. And with the green, I have green tissue here. So with this green background, I can change the picture which I have in my Zoom presentation, in my Zoom platform. And I used it to introduce the idea to make it more personalized. You will see it. So I watched the video as a model. Yeah, then my students had to brainstorm some language, and I used whiteboard for that. In Zoom, we can use the whiteboard. Yeah, I'm sure you already know that. And you won't see this part in the video just because I thought it was too boring to show how my students were writing. What else I would suggest while we are preparing for the lesson and what I bared in mind. So my students have different quality of connection. So that's why while I was choosing materials for my lesson, I was trying to keep this in mind and not to provide some tasks from different platforms which require very good connection. And actually there was a connection failure. Some of my students had it, so this is also something we have to bear in mind. I asked my students to use different colors for typing while we were brainstorming the language, just to see if all of them actually participate in it or not, because sometimes only like one or two people can write things, and others say that they have very poor connection, or they have, teacher, I have written it, you just this is mine. So I guess using different colors is a way out here. Also, a very important thing, I had to ask my students to take a screenshot of the whiteboard because when you put them into breakout rooms, the whiteboard doesn't work anymore, so you can't share it. I mean, you can share it later, but they don't have it when they leave the main room. So a screenshot is also something we need to use. And also I had to think about my instructions, and you will see from the video that my instructions sometimes were not as clear as they should be, and what happened as a result of that. All right, so let's do the following thing. We will watch the first video. It's going to be a bit embarrassing because this is my lesson, so you can criticize, but try to be nice. So I would like you to watch the video and tell me, please, after watching the video, what was the problem of the internet connection? So how did it influence the lesson? And what was the problem with instructions? So again, what other issues did it cause? Okay, so the problem with internet connection, why was it important? And the problem with instructions. So let's watch the video. Our best. Our best. Lovely. So, you know, the thing is, I'm also having, let's call it holidays. I'm not sure I'm happy about that, but no choice, just like everybody else. And I'm a bit tired, to be honest, of staying at home and doing nothing. And my usual day looks like this. Yeah. So I spend all my time just staying on my sofa, watching TV and surfing the internet. Do you do anything different?
What do you do? You walk? Yes.
How come you walk? It's forbidden, isn't it?
No, I think
No.
you can walk.
Okay. Nick, what about you? What do you do?
I'm on distance learning at school.
And do you do your homework or do you go for walks like ladies?
No, I'm staying home.
Why?
All day.
Why?
For me.
I don't need to go.
Oh.
I'm all day stay at home and do my homework. That's all what I do at home.
Do you people watch TV?
My life maybe not interesting.
Okay. Well, I don't like TV either, but I don't have any choice. I need to keep myself busy. Okay, perfect. So what I'd like you to do now, I want you to spend a minute and think about 3 activities that I can do or you can do at home instead of watching TV. Okay, the video wasn't up to the end, but okay, while you were watching the video, did you have sound? Okay, you had it. Oh, thanks a lot. No, it's not the end, okay, no. Okay, some of you could see the video and could hear something. That's great news. You saw me, okay. All right, just in a few words. Okay, some of you saw my background. Thank you. You could hear me. So for those who couldn't watch the video, okay. For those of you who couldn't watch the video, who couldn't see anything or hear anything, it was a very short video of the beginning with the prediction stage, and I asked my students about what they did while they were trying to live through this isolation, and what ideas, what do they do? And I complained that I have nothing else to do but to watch TV. And I showed a picture of a dog that was trying, well, I can't really explain. So there was a dog, and the dog was really bored. Okay. So, yeah, the dog, there's one more thing. If you put something like this dog on your background, please make sure that at some moment of your lesson you get rid of it. Because, hangover, maybe, because then you just look very weird when you have the dog's legs over your head. I don't usually speak very slow with them. It depends, in most cases, on the level, and it depends on the stage of the lesson. So at the very beginning, I'm quite slow, yes. So speaking about the background, in your Zoom, well, first of all, I have this green screen. It's very helpful. Or I know that it works if all your objects in your room where you're working are quite far from you, so you can also change the background. It is a function of Zoom. And I know that this week and last week there was a nice webinar by Kиселева Евгения, my colleague, and I'm pretty sure she told a lot about using Zoom and some technical details. So yeah, you can change the background if you go to your video settings, and there will be change background. You can find any picture in the internet, the one which is relevant to your lesson or just the one you like, and put it on your background so it works. Settings, video settings. So it's next to the camera where you can switch off your camera in Zoom. So there's an arrow, you click the arrow and you change it. The green screen, it works better with the green screen. This is really funny because it is so nice. We are all, I'm pretty sure, qualified teachers and methodologists here, but the green screen is the most popular question now. You just have to have something green, yeah, on your background. Okay, so I guess I will move on with my methodology stuff. Well, has anyone noticed anything apart from my green screen? There was a problem with my instruction. Have you noticed it? While you were watching the video, you saw a problem with my instruction. Too long, absolutely. Too vague, I would say. Because I guess I was just a bit nervous, but I started saying all those things. Would you like, please, I want you to do. Yes, be very, very short with your instructions. They spoke for a long time. It was just the video was cut into pieces and merged back just because I wanted to show some other things. All right, so my instruction was too long. It is very important while you're teaching online to give extremely short and clear instructions, especially if your students are still getting used to this process. How they were supposed to do the task. I expected 3 ideas of what to do during the isolation. So I was moving, and you will see it. You will see some more parts of this video. I was moving towards the main product when they will have to record a video, and this will be their homework, and to their writing and I will demonstrate how we can do writing, how we can do how we can have some products. Okay. So we brainstormed some language. You haven't seen it, but it was there. So for this, I used Zoom, and I opened the whiteboard. My Zoom, as you can see, is in Russian, just because I feel it's more comfortable for me. So you should choose the whiteboard, click it. So share the screen, choose the whiteboard, and you should choose in your it says other settings. I don't know why the picture is so small, really. So you have to let your students comment, and then you can get something like this. So I asked my students, before they started doing the task, I asked them to brainstorm some language, so some adjectives that they can use to describe a hobby or an activity, just to provoke some support, to get some support when they will be doing the task. If you ask them to do something like this, and if you ask them to brainstorm, please make sure that your students take a screenshot of this, or I don't know, take a picture using their telephones, because otherwise it will disappear when they go to breakout rooms. So this was my preparation task, preparation stage. And then we come to stage 2, when they actually have the task to do, and they have to complete the task. My task was to choose 3 activities that my students can do, or that I can do, instead of watching TV during the isolation. So I wanted them to choose 3 activities, to think of reasons why they think the activities are appropriate, try to use the language which we brainstormed, and they will have to prepare the results. I was only monitoring this process and not interfering them at all. So while you are going through the second stage, they worked in pairs. The whiteboard can be saved. Yes, it can be saved by you as teachers, but again, you will have to send it again. So it's easier and faster to just have a screenshot or a photo. But in case when your students are using telephones, it's quite difficult for them to take photos or screenshots. So make sure that you know what devices they're using. Okay, going back to some tips for the second stage, for this task cycle. When you're pairing them up in Zoom, especially when you're sending them to the breakout rooms, make sure that your students are of the same level. I would like to remind you that I had 3 levels in my group: A2, B1, and B2. And they are all preparing for exams, for different exams. So this was a speaking activity for all of them, just in order to practice more. So it was a group lesson with mixed levels. Make sure when you put them in pairs that their level is more or less the same, or probably I+1. So task-based learning gives an opportunity for students to work within like a level and a half, when they can work with somebody who's a bit stronger and a bit weaker than they are. And what is good about task-based learning, again, is that for mixed level groups, you can work with, they can provide this output within their level. So unlike some other approaches, again, it's easier and more effective for mixed ability groups. So you need to anticipate the language that they might have problems with, and you will see later how I dealt with that. You need to provide some feedback on content. Remember, again, the focus is fluency, the focus is the message, so feedback on content is crucial here. What is good about Zoom, it provides you a chance to monitor the students while they're working in pairs. So you can go from one room to the other. I know that some teachers even use more than one device to do that, because they can monitor all the group at the same time. I don't know how this idea is appropriate for you, but you might want to try it out. And again, if we have poor connection, make sure that you won't have 2 students with poor connection in one group. So if you know one person has poor connection, put them in a group of 3, because otherwise it will be absolutely useless for one of them. Okay. And as you will watch the video with a combination of stages 2 and 3, during stage 3, you will have the language analysis. So this is your time to give feedback. This is your chance to drill some language. And this is your chance to comment on the language, so on the accuracy, in order for your students to improve during the next task cycle. So you're going to watch. I hope this time you will see something in here, at least most of you. You're going to watch this next part of my lesson when the students were doing the task in pairs, and you don't know how to use rooms. Okay, I'll tell you a bit later, right? Rooms. And by the way, you have probably noticed that you have some special chat for the slide back. Okay. My lesson was a bit more than an hour. So it was a speaking lesson, and the next one would be writing. So you will only see the speaking one. Yes, there are, okay. Stage 3, you will get all the materials. So don't worry too much. There's a lot of stress nowadays, so let's reduce it a bit. You have a special chat for questions. So if you have any questions and you don't want me to lose them in the general chat, so please put them in the question chat. Okay. So this is your stage 3. Fine. So let's watch the second part, which is a combination of stages 2 and 3. Again, you will see some problems, and tell me please which problems did I have and what could be the solution. Okay. Let's hope for the best. This is our video.
I might have problem with internet. I can't search.
Eating a lot, so I think training is, yes.
Maybe like hobby, because dancing is like hobby too.
Maybe dancing is like hobby, yes.
And what did you say, Anna?
Improving hobbies, like your hobbies. Maybe.
As I can see, many of you can't see the video or don't have the sound. If you can see it or hear it, can you put a plus? Okay, so at least some people can do it. So I would recommend either refreshing the page or trying to join the webinar again. So I guess we will go on.
Do some hobbies. Yes.
Yes, and improve your skills, like develop it.
Do some hobbies, okay. And third, maybe spend your time with family. Family, yes.
Yes, I think so.
I also need you to think about the reasons why. You have another minute. Okay? Why you think these activities are appropriate?
Training, because when it's quarantine, we always sitting on one place, and yes, and we do nothing. And I think training, it can be very useful for our body and health.
Yes, not to become fat.
Yes.
And I think spending time with family, because usually at usual days we don't have time for it, and on quarantine we can watch film together or chat or play some games maybe.
And maybe we can be a bit closer.
Yes, to become closer.
And I think do some hobby, because
Okay.
usually we don't
So
have-
can you see the phrases on the left of your screen?
Yes.
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 All these phrases are either for agree or disagree, show interest, ask for opinion, and give yourself time to think or give your opinion. Have a look through these phrases. Are there any phrases that you never use?
No.
Because when I was listening to you discussing 3 activities, I didn't hear many of them. I heard I think, I'm not sure, and do you agree? And that's it. Okay, let's try to put them into groups. Give me a moment. Okay, Dmitry, you're
Yes.
going to be the first. Choose a phrase and tell me the group.
I think seriously it's to show interest.
Okay. Diana?
I think really is to show interest too.
Okay. Okay, Nick?
That's true, it's agree.
Oh, whoa, wait a second. Okay, Slava?
How come it's disagree?
How come it's disagree? Okay, Anna?
What do you think? It's up for opinion?
What do you think? It's asking for
Yes.
opinion, right?
Yes.
Okay, give me a moment because I can't see all of you, unfortunately. Sonia?
I'd say that it's give your opinion, maybe.
We'll see. And okay, who'll take the last one? Dima?
That's an interesting question. I think give your opinion.
Okay, well done, guys. Let's check.
Yes, let's.
Okay. Well,
Hold on.
as you can see, we have some problems. Okay, let's have a quick look. What about oh, how come? What is it? Any ideas? Oh, how come?
Show interest.
Okay, I can't move it now. Whoa. No, I can't. Okay, what about right? Right?
Ask for opinion.
It's
Agree or ask for opinion? Okay. Okay. I know that some of you didn't have a chance to see anything, and I do apologize for that. I hope at least you had some chance to stretch a bit. At least you will all get the videos, you will all get all the materials. So let me tell you what I used for this. So first of all, I put them into breakout rooms. So how can you do this? Again, my Zoom is in Russian. And you can see that I have these breakout rooms, сессионные залы. which is this name is in Russian. So you choose this, then you choose the breakout room you need, and put as many people into a breakout room as you want. So you can choose them automatically or manually. It depends on your purpose. It depends on your group. So again, this is your chance to pick the people, the students with appropriate levels, and maybe not just levels of English, but level of communication. And I can see some links to tutorials for Zoom. Thank you very much. And I do recommend a webinar by Katerina, because it was really one of the most useful things I've seen recently. Okay. So you asked some questions about the activity which I used. This was the language analysis already. So the task was rather short. It is possible on a tablet. It depends. So for some students, I know that some students manage to do it, but unfortunately not from all the devices. And this is the word wall net, which I used for this activity. So I anticipated some problems with functional language, and that was also one of my aims for the lesson, not just speaking, but speaking with developing speaking and developing interaction. So this is how we used it. The only thing I have to mention is that when you use word wall net, it's a very good application. You can create a lot of different activities there, but be careful, because it might make your lesson very slow because of the internet connection. So make sure you have a good internet connection. And if you've probably noticed, my students couldn't do it themselves, so I couldn't even share the control, because some of them had poor internet connection and some of them were using it from a telephone, so you can't give them the control while you're using it from a telephone. So sometimes you will just have to listen to them and do the exercise yourself. So it's not that so much interactive, but still some change. So I do recommend the website. If you want, you can try some other activities there. Okay, yeah, and they checked the answers. So during my task and during my language analysis stage, I also had some problems, apart from the ones I've already mentioned, so poor internet connection and not everybody could control and do the activity with me. Was there anything else? What do you think? What were other problems during the lesson, and did I achieve the main aim? They spoke all together. Yeah, it was difficult to monitor all of them. So again, be careful with that. Pre-version. I use the upgraded version, so I'm not sure you can use it. I think I'll have to check it again. They didn't understand the language. Well, they did, most of them at least. Again, it's a chance for to have a lesson for different levels. Okay, so but still you might try this, and I would say that still my students did the task, and this was my main aim, to make them talk to each other. So within the task-based learning approach, I could say that I achieved my main goal. All right, so we have another video. I'm not sure that yeah, there's a problem with timing. I'm sorry. You will get the video, and I guess this will be a good solution to all problems, because everybody will have a chance to watch it. And in this video, we will have more, they will do the task again with some pictures. So then we had a task repetition. I have like 5 more minutes, so if you don't mind, because there is something I would like to tell you about writing. Because our next lesson with this group was about writing. We did this mostly the same task, but it was the main focus was writing. So I gave them a model taken from some internet, and they had to create in Google Docs. They had to create a short, not article, but a short piece of writing aimed on giving recommendations. So I used Google Docs. It's also a very basic tool. Again, I do insist on putting methodology first, not putting technology first. So they had to create a piece of writing that, which we named Teen in Quarantine. We used it in Google Docs based on the language we had at the previous part of the lesson. So if we speak about Google Docs, this is an application, this is a platform that you should ask your students to download before you start the lesson. Otherwise, it will take a horrible amount of time. So they should do it beforehand. You should open and create the document in Google Docs, and then you should edit it so that people would be able to edit, not just to look through. You will generate a link. So you can put this link into the chat in your Zoom, or you can send it by email. It's up to you. The good thing is that you can put your students into different breakout rooms and create links for different groups. So each of them will have a Google document for just one group, and they can create their own piece of writing. Also, group your students wisely, because if they are doing it from their phones, they won't be able, it will be extremely uncomfortable for them to use Google Docs, because it's not very comfortable to type there. But in groups, I will show 2 previous slides. Yes, there was a model. And then we had a writing. So, yeah, main tips. Download it, install it beforehand, and copy the link so they can use it separately. And as I've mentioned already, task-based learning has a real-life task. So what can be more real-life than publishing something? So when my students created a text, they inserted some pictures, they put some pictures in the document. I downloaded this document, and I created a page in Pinterest. So with this particular one, we had some others, but I like this most of all. So we published it in my account in Pinterest. So this is the real life task which I'm talking about. And this is something that you can do with your students, and you can develop their skills without, again, being too dependent on technology. Pinterest, so this is free. You can have some paid account, but this one is free. You can post whatever you like there. And it only asks for some registration. But the thing is that your students can see that there is a real result, and there is they have more motivation to do it, because it's not just something that has no relevance to the real life. All right, so just to sum it all up, what I would suggest, the pictures are small, yes, but it's not that much about reading them. It's more about having this sense of accomplishment, this feeling that you've done something and people can do it and appreciate it. So it's mostly because of that. Okay, so just to sum it up, I can't emphasize more that even nowadays, when we are teaching online and we are trying to incorporate this technology into our teaching, still methodology should go first, and still planning lessons and using different approaches like TBL, for example, is more important than using 100 of applications, and because it's too confusing for all, for us and for students. For TBL, real life tasks, they can do it, they will be more motivated. Clear instructions, my weak point, I have to admit, but yeah, give very short instructions and provide these instructions in the chats if you put them into breakout rooms. So make sure that your students know what to do. Don't use more than 1 or 2 additional applications. It will take too much time. It will take too much effort, but it won't be that effective. So install all the applications before the lesson. Give all the instructions on how to use Zoom, how to use Whiteboard before you start the actual lesson. Otherwise, it will take ages and they will lose the track. And the last one would be keep it simple, because there's a lot of technology and we are lost and they are lost and we are too overwhelmed. So just make it as simple as you can. And probably this is all I wanted to say. So let's have a look at the questions. I can see some of them. Task-based learning. Okay. Chat, do you have any questions? You can write in the chat. Yeah, my hand is still with me. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed it. Watch the video. It will be another embarrassing moment for me, but anyway. Okay, if you have any questions, what's the name of this Zoom webinar? I think my colleagues will send you all the links to the webinars, which I mentioned about how to use Zoom. And also Zoom has amazing tutorials, so just watch it. Okay, I hope it was helpful. So take care. Other services like Word Wall. There's another one which I use a lot, and it's it's called, just a moment, like this one, we'll-decide.com. It's not as slow as Word Wall, however, it doesn't provide so many possibilities. I also use Quizlet and Kahoot. I guess they are very popular, we all know them, and students like it. But again, don't overload your teaching, overload your lessons with too much technology. On Kahoot, we do some tests, we do some drilling, and it's not within task-based learning approach. When we do some drilling in PPP, for example, when we work with the language, not with the skill, because TBL is mostly for skills, PPP is mostly for the language. So with the language, we work a lot with Kahoot, yes. Some words, phrases, things like that. Okay, so I guess this is, yeah, we are already 10 minutes late. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure working with you. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you can survive this period. So take care and enjoy your lessons. Bye-bye.